Hello. Pardon our last minute screen change, but I think we're all set now. And thank you all for coming. Let me welcome you to the TU Delft Library. My name is Vincent Salucci. I'm a program maker here. Also work with curation and exhibitions in the Library Learning Center. And I'm very excited for the program and the exhibition that we're here today for. It's titled SHErobots. And we have some guests from down under, Australia, the University of Sydney's, or excuse me, the Universities of Sydney and New South Wales. And we have three co-curators that, and really lead co-curators that came up from Australia to help be here with us today, as well as one of them is going to be performing with a live robot in the library. And when we were just starting to talk about this exhibition and some of the side programs, the thing that just sold me was live robot performance in the library, especially having to do with lipstick and putting on makeup and some tension of whether it's actually going to go on the person's face. Do we trust the robot enough to apply the makeup? So you know, a little bit of suspense there, and we'll see how it all plays up. Sorry, I'm moving around. But yes, I want to re-welcome you all again. We have basically we're going to hear a few words from Astrid Tal, who is the DUIS, which is the Delft Women in Science coordinator, and she's going to introduce, put a nice little frame of a Women in Science frame, and also clue us in a little bit more to the Women in Science context at the university here, and then we'll transition to the performance, and then we'll have a small Q&A and discussion session with the open Q&A, and then go celebrate and tour, do informal tour of the exhibition. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Astrid, and we'll get it going. That one should work for you.
Hello? Yeah. Oh. Hello, thank you so much for being all here, and yeah, thank you, Vincent, for giving Davis this platform also. So Davis, yeah, is we stand for equal representation of women in scientific positions and also, of course, decision-making positions. So let's look a little bit at the data. This is TU Delft at the 1st of February 2024, and as you can see, yeah, I think this is not a very surprise, but from assistant to associate professors it's going down, and from associate to full professors is going down. And you see there's quite a bigger pool of assistant professors now, 37.5%, and here you can see that the gender gap is actually closing very good. So the past few years, TU Delft has done a very good job at recruiting female scientists in these positions. But now it's also our challenge to retain and advance the women at TU Delft. And this is the Women Professors Monitor, and you can see also TU Delft is unfortunately still the last in line, so we hope to work on a better future for this. And yeah, so what is happening? There are basically 4 forms of gender bias, and the first is prove it again. So this is about women who have to work harder to establish competence. The second is the maternal wall, and I've heard people say, well, this is a bit outdated, but it is not. It is about the belief that women with children and caregiving responsibilities are less committed to their careers. And we are actually having someone over of the Mothers in Science platform. She did research recently, and she will show her data, and the results show that this maternity wall is actually very present. And the third is the tightrope, that women need to believe in masculine ways in order to be seen as competent, and on the other side, women are expected to be feminine. And the fourth is the tug of war. It's named the tug of war, which shows that yeah, how gender can fuel conflict between the different generations. Also, yeah, maybe more known as the queen bee phenomenon. And all this gender bias is yeah, in research, in grant applications, women receive lower amount of grants, and if they want to apply the second time, they do not get the grants in the same amount as men do. Also in teaching evaluations are lower for women, so it's a big problem. So yeah, we are about Davis. So our mission is to promote a positive change and inclusivity. And we work on 3 pillars. To create awareness about these gender issues, influencing policy and connecting the women at TU Delft. And I really appreciate what Vincent, the library, is doing here to give to do this exhibition and to give women a platform, and because role models are very important to show the younger generation that it is possible to have a career in science, and also the gender perspective in the research, the gendered and it's sometimes forgotten, as maybe you know this example about the car seat belts that they used only male dummies, and a lot of car accidents, women got very much more injured because of this lack of perspective of these female dummies. So this is what we do. So we have connecting, empowering, we have mentoring workshops, peer-to-peer learning, networking activities, training programs. So influencing, we organize dialogues at the faculties to see what patterns arise. We take this to the Dean's Executive Board. We are a member of the Diversity Board. I also should mention the TU Delft has now a D&I office with a whole team, a D&I officer. They are working very hard to change things at TU Delft. And of course also we are part of the awareness raising big events like International Women's Day. So I also want to invite you to our 8th of March International Women's Day. This is our board. So Sophia Luxo, she is our chairperson. I am, like Vincent said, the coordinator of the board. We also have a sounding board. I think we have a few sounding board members here. I don't know. Amy is also part of our, Amy Sarcase is part of our sounding board member. And so this is about 15 women in different positions at all faculties. And we all try to work for this change. So if anybody is interested to get involved, please see me after the meeting. That's it. And thank you so much. And I want to, of course, enjoy the exhibition and have good fun also. Thank you.
Thank you, Astrid. You can take that. Thank you. Astrid and I did a Voices, an exhibition 2 years ago called Voices of Women in Science, which is on the library website that, if you're interested in more highlighting TU Delft researchers and a little more information on DUIS, it's worth looking at. Up next is the performance by Leon Loke, and Leon Loke is an associate professor in interaction design at the University of Sydney School of Architecture, Design, and Planning. Leon's research in the multidisciplinary field of human-computer interaction studies, the interactivity of humans and machines through a choreographic and soma aesthetic lens, exploring how to design embodied and movement-based interactions and experiences with emerging technologies that support human agency, creative expression, skill, and vitality. This performance is titled Code Red, which is Repeat After Me is the subtitle. And it will be Leanne Loke and our Kukaiwa robot, with much gratefulness to Micah and the cognitive robotics team here at TU Delft for loaning this to this performance. And a statement from the performer: I often wished for a third arm to make my life easier. Getting up in the morning, grooming, and getting ready for the day, surely more efficient with the help of a robotic arm. But I forgot about the training. Using improvised performance as a research methodology, I inquire into future worlds where humans and robots live with, learn from, and adapt to each other, raising questions as to who is becoming human, or indeed who or what is becoming robot. Thank you, thank you. Leanne's going to take a small moment to reflect, and then she might join us up for the next portion of the event, but we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to have a small discussion panel with the other two co-curators, and just want to introduce them really quick. Dagmar Reinhardt is a practicing architect, researcher, and educator. Reinhardt leads the robotics research group as an associate professor at the School of Architecture, Design, and Planning at the University of Sydney. Reinhardt's research focuses on human-centric design at the nexus of acoustics, robotics, and accessibility, with recent research projects exploring the range of human-robotic collaboration. And Deborah Turnbull-Tillman is a curator specializing in design, technology, and new media. An editor and author as well. Deb specializes in disruption and experiential learning regarding the curatorial process and the reflection in action vein of Donald Schum. She is creative director for the New Media Curation Platform and is lecturer in media arts and curational at the University of New South Wales School of Art and Design in the Faculty of Art, Design, and Architecture. So I'd like to welcome you both up, and I will moderate this panel.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that was kind of fun.
Maybe we can each have.
Yes.
Then Leon is here.
Yes, Leon is here.
I'm on.
You're hot. So
I'm live, baby.
Yes, it's live.
Oh,
Mic is hot.
What are you doing here? Okay. So that is best.
So, Leon is ready to join us. Perfect.
Are you joining?
Perfect. So, thanks again to Leanne for this amazing performance. Perhaps we can hear some of the companion SHErobots reflections to help us unpack it.
I love that question. There's so much to unpack. Well, okay, so first of all, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us here. It's always great to have a robot on the show, and so having an industrial robotic arm is something that's quite, as you said before, can we program it? I think that's really the point. These robotic arms have become pretty ubiquitous across architecture schools since 2012. One part of it was really having robot programming available as a plug-in to computational design. So we're all working with Rhino, Grasshopper, KUKA, PRC, really made it available to us. You have the robot here on that side with the programming, bringing it into a domestic environment. Your question, can it actually be programmed? Can I get ready? Can it help me be supported with it? I think that's interesting. I love the way how you've been playing the whole dynamic of the space, really going in with your body, moving your body through that robot action. I think this is something that is very impromptu, and it's a big challenge. And exploring that through performative means is really absolutely unique. Thank you for giving us that.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Dagmar, for those kind comments. Just to give you a little bit of some insight into what I was exploring with this performance. I've been wanting to dance with a robot for a few years, but it's always been an elusive target. But luckily here, we were able to actually have time with the robot, and thank you very much to Micah Prendergast from Cognitive Robotics Lab for enabling that very, very generously, and for Charlotte Firth to being my APEC programmer, who sat with me for, I don't know, we've been here since maybe 3 days, 5, I don't know. It was intense. And I was having to, gesture and use my body to suggest how the robot should move, and then Charlotte would be able to explore and translate that into this particular kind of robotic behavior. So yeah, there is a question about how do we live with robots. At the moment, it's not very common. There are some service robots around and various things, but I think for us, and Dagmar and I have the project around the lipstick drawing robot, which through a feminist lens, we're not saying we really want robots to draw lipstick on us, but it was more to take that conceit of what is a feminine construct and then sort of deconstruct it through putting a robot into the equation. But because I'm a dancer, a performer, I really like to explore the movement dynamics, and through that, what those dynamics suggest to you as the observer or the audience or the recipient. So if you had this robot in your space, it's with anything. It's even like with other humans or animals, how we actually not coexist, but we co-shape each other. We co-constitute each other in that. And, you know, like someone you're really close to or your pet, you start devising your own languages together with them. So I'm really interested in that space of how we, these sort of embodied adaptations that we make. And so this is just a very small step to exploring that kind of relational dynamic and having a little bit of fun with it as well. So being playful, playful yet with serious intent. And because I think if we are going towards a world where we are living with robots, those robots are going to be shaping our behaviours, our ethics and things like that. So we don't want them always to be serious utilitarian tools. I think having playful entities that we can be joyful and comic together with is also a really important thing.
But it's also very much about trust, right? And so can you tell us, was your heart beating pretty fast when you get that proximity to the robot with the balloon in your mouth?
Well, that's why I had the balloon. There's no way I'm putting my lips or teeth on the line with this robot. Maybe. Well, actually, we have another incredible artist and researcher here, Julie Ron, that has done exactly that with not this robot, with a universal robot, which may be a little bit more forgiving. Has an incredible work with the robot using a brush to put on makeup. It goes way beyond what we've done, actually. Really beautiful. You should check it out. No, it was in the former exhibition. Yeah. So yeah, you can go talk to the beautiful Jilly over there about it. Yeah, but trust again is one of those things. How close do we get to robots? What kind of bodies do they need to have for us to feel physically safe and not vulnerable? This is still a whole hunk of metal. So maybe it needs some soft bits on it. And we need to trust its behavior. Actually, I think Dagmar and I, when we were writing a chapter on Code Red, the film we did talk about this idea of safety, because in industrial robotics there are safety fences, you're not meant to get close to them, but we said it was more in the approach or something, didn't we? It was something around how you approach, like what are the behaviour dynamics that enable you to say it's safe, rather than just saying, oh, it's a hard industrial robot, you have to be, whatever, 2 meters away from it.
That was a very soft, this is a very soft setup in the sense that you do the programming, it's sort of pre-programmed, and it's all choreographed. So there's a scenography, you actually know what to expect from the robot and the action that it does take. The EVA also has sort of added functions, so there's a possibility for sensing, and we're going to show you a demonstration of that tomorrow with the placement and pickup and seeding with a robot seedling, but that's really not the point at the moment here. This idea that something behaves in a way and then you're leaning into that. So remember when we tried the Code Red and there was this sort of micro gestures around the lips that were developing, where the model Susanna was really leaning into the lipstick in order to receive that placement of the color. That was super interesting. And I think you're trialing something here that is working on a much bigger scale when you're actually taking the robot as a denominator of space and interacting with that. So.
Speaking of space and leaning into things, we've been leaning into creating this exhibition here that's also the opening, so maybe we can shift gears a little bit to give an overview of the exhibition and a little bit of the history of it, if one of you would like to take this away.
Sure. Am I allowed to still respond to Leon's piece?
Of course.
Yeah, so mine would probably be a more creative or artistic rendering than what Dagmar was talking about with the software and things. To me, those are all materials, and the way that you use those materials and manipulate those materials are as careful as the way you've costumed yourself or you've presented yourself. And then for me, the really enjoyable part of watching you perform, especially here, is to watch Leon leave and to have your character come in, because you have a lot of freedom in that movement, in that space, to do as you will. It's not how you normally carry yourself through the world. And then when you come over near the robot, I was watching Charlotte's reactions. I don't know where she went. She went somewhere. There she is. I was watching her, and she was watching so closely to the computer screen and so closely to the robot. And I actually really held my breath when you were moving in and around it, with the balloon, without the balloon, and your body would be exposed to it. And I think the consideration in the choreography that you did was almost, I mean, I know there was sound to it, but it was like a separate musical experience for me. That was beautiful, thank you.
Maybe I can pick up the question of the origin. So SHErobots really, no, because I really want to share this, right? It's really important that what we're doing here is not a show. It's a platform. And so this has really been the origin story behind everything that we are doing. Robots have been along and been used for over 40 years. They've been in automation, they've been in the construction industries, they've been in engineering. Normally what you get is the man, so the professor or the lab leader stands at the front. And we're now at a very interesting point in time where there's lots of PhDs just finishing. Lots of these teams become super creative. Women work alongside men, and we're now just swapping over where female roboticists, and I actually like the French word best, roboticienne. Sorry, French is not really good, but so, but female roboticists become professors in their own rights. They become lab leaders. So, and that's really showcasing that. So what we're showing is not something that is just happening; it has already happened, right? And so making these platforms, giving other people the opportunity, making these exchanges, visiting each other, collaborating with each other, that's really at the core of what SHErobots does. And when we say SHErobots, it's SHErobots, so it's really like a verb. Yeah? And this interaction and this discourse is really the most important point. So if you, and just putting another hook out here, if you're interested in that, if you want to work with a lab, if you want to work with a platform, if you have seen something that was really inspiring in some conferences, come and talk to us. And what we have been doing in 2022 is basically just make a major collection out of people that we have been collaborating with or meeting at conferences or just found super cool. And invited them to come to the Sydney exhibition, and then which we had ordered to 3 different themes. So it's maybe because this exhibition is slightly different. It's a sort of second generation platform making already.
And it's future focused, like what are we doing next? So the Tool Toy Companion that we had at Tin Sheds was really about establishing where women were practicing, where they're operating and in what ways. And each of us kind of had a specialization that we brought to the table, and the gallery really went for it, and they sponsored it and looked after us. And then from there, we were actually able to grow it. And we got a few invitations, but I think to come to TU Delft, where Henrietta Buur is sponsoring us, and Vincent was so passionate about it, I think, we couldn't say no. And for me, a reclaimed space, unconventional exhibition materials, giant panels interspersed with all sorts of things. I mean, for me, that's the kind of curatorial challenge that I like. But I wanted to pick up a little bit on what you were saying about the connection between people, because I think that that's also why the exhibition works. So you wouldn't think that an exhibition on art, industrial materials, mycelium, science, bricks, the materials that reinforce those bricks, the machines that make them would actually really sing. But I think because of the connections and the way that we platform it, that it really does sing.
And of course also because, so this one is Ecologies of Care. So we are focusing ourselves not as a sort of tool toy companions, really looking at, sort of construction robotics, social robots, and creative robotics. So it's a very clear-cut 3 different fields where they come together, and we're looking at the overlaps. Ecologies of Care is a sort of second iteration, is really looking at how do we deal with the environment. What do women do differently than the classical hardcore engineering, sort of results-oriented, optimized scenarios that robots are normally working in? So Ecologies of Care is really looking at garden robots, small animals, robots as small animals. Very sensitive relationships between a mother and a daughter, where the daughter is actually a caretaking robot, right? We're looking at materials that are super sensitive because they're light sensitive or they're alive, like mycelium. We're looking at very difficult relationships with circular materiality. So how do we actually deal with resources of our environment? So when we say trouble, it's really addressing trouble. It's trouble making, but it's also trouble solving. And it's getting yourself into trouble while looking at these sort of very soft, very dynamic, very unclear relationships that we're playing through the robots in order to find out new solutions.
And just to be clear, I think we had some statistics that we bounced around. It's what, 25 female researchers from 7 countries involved in the exhibition. 19 projects. So we'll adjourn over there in a moment. But I want to talk a little bit more about this. Speaking of feminism, and it's come up through our dialogue and through some of the talk around the exhibition and the presentation is there's this real big challenge about reinforcing and dispelling stereotypes. Society's role of, how society's role for women is putting there, and how both this, like we take it back to the subtitle, the Ecologies of Care, right? So this caring role is like, so how exactly are you negotiating this or managing this within both the exhibition, but also as professionals? And
Can I have a stab? Or do you want to go first? I think for me the most natural ecology of care is teaching. That's my job. I teach as a curator and as a media arts kind of specialist. I bring our students in their 3rd year and their honors and their masters to exhibition, and then teach them how to make exhibitions with media art. And so for me, this is like practice-based research. So coming and doing this, I can then turn into a case study and bring along to my students and care for them in a way that's kind of first-hand tacit knowledge, not from a book, not from this, not from that. And a lot of our courses actually, there are some texts. It's real, authentic. But I think that kind of tacit knowledge and that transfer of tacit knowledge is what's really interesting to me here as well.
Leanne or Dagmar?
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to the Donna Haraway reference that Deb did some really beautiful writing around as well, and her idea of making trouble, making kin. What was it? Hot compost piles.
Hot compost piles, unusual collaborations.
Yeah, unusual collaborations. So sometimes I find Donna Haraway quite difficult to read, but she's got really exciting ideas in there. So I think we're still sort of grappling with, how to really riff off her sentiments and this idea that we've really gone to with the idea of making trouble. That we actually need to make trouble in these times.
Well, and that we often are held accountable for making trouble when we don't even mean to.
Yeah, we can be troublemakers, but we also want to be making good trouble that helps solve problems that I think our current planet and humanity is in at the moment. And just raising questions more around the role of robotics and AI going forward, because we seem to be at a junction point at the moment where the rise of AI, ChatGPT, all that kind of stuff is almost like a runaway technology. How can we intervene? How can we sort of bring it back as a force for good? How do we apply it to scenarios we haven't thought about that can actually benefit from using robotics and AI so that we're solving more problems than we're actually making?
Agree.
I'd like to open up some to the audience. I'm not sure if the catch box is going, or I'm more than happy to pass it around too. Anyone have a question for our panelists?
Thank you for the performance and the discussion. Sometimes you hear that the reason for diversity in boardrooms is not for the sake of gender diversity, but for the sake of diversity between character traits. And now with robotics, is it more meaningful to, again, illustrate male, female, or make it more opaque to have not like female, male robots, but more see the diversity in character traits.
So can I play that question back? Is it it, she, or him?
They?
Yes.
For you, is it what's the robot? What's the name of the robot?
Well, in my interpretation of this, of your take on ecologies of care, that is a more feminine trait. But okay.
No, but I just want to be very clear about that, because
Okay.
it's also the question around sort of stereotypes. And I was raised in a humanist tradition, right? So everybody has animus and anima, right? So you have a female and you have a male soul. And it just, so if you're placed in a position where you can only play your male or your female role, then you're basically taking one part of the whole equation out. And I think that's problematic for everybody. So it's not a problem for women or for men, but it's a problem for all of us. And really, so if we talk about SHErobots, we're looking at sort of making relationships, establishing relationships, looking at these networks, bringing stuff together. That's the whole point. And men do that, but women do it. Women have done it for a very long time, yeah? And women have not done it in the upper levels. So what Astrid has been showing, I mean, this gap is there. Yeah, 20% is not, 20%, 80%, you know, it's not a 50-50 situation. And we know that firms or offices or practices are well nurtured and well thriving if you have females in the same number at the top, because then there's a balancing and you can look at both sides. So you need to play both of your brains. Yeah.
Can I also add in?
Yeah, I have something to add after you.
Yeah, I think just carrying on from your question as well, we certainly have a thread through the exhibition. One of our artists, who's based in Japan, Elle Knox, she tackles this idea of, I guess, stereotypical roles, especially females as in service roles. She does that through these amazing works where she programs gynoid robots and creates these sort of short films around them. But what's happening in Japan, because most of the professors are male roboticists, and they do this kind of casting. It's like, okay, we want to have a service robot, let's make it feminine, let's make it soft. So all those trays are just unthinkingly, or they are consciously being put into these robots. So I guess as you're asking, should it be this way, or can we have more of a diversity, or are these robots animals, or, you know, they're not humanoid at all? Like what are we reflecting back through the robots that we make is a really important question.
And I would just add that perhaps caring for the world, or caring for our families, or caring for our students, or caring for our workplace is not a female responsibility, but a human one.
Another question, maybe?
More questions? Okay, my question to the audience, what do you think a robot should do?
Oh, yeah.
Like anything in the world, like you can have what you wish. We're opening up the box, what should it be doing?
Dishes.
And what sort of robot?
I wanted to, first of all, say thanks for this, for your performance and this exhibition and the panel discussion. I think a robot should be, I think adequate is too weak a word, but an adequate interlocutor, right? So in my mind, able to interact with the organic individual it finds itself with, and perhaps engage in some sort of constructive interaction, which is of service and enhances the human's sort of skills and abilities, whatever those happen to be. And I think that is general enough to cover a wide range of things. Like, you know, a human might want a robot to converse with, right? Into old age, and to exchange ideas with. But it could also be instructive and educational. There could be a pedagogical aspect to it. It could be assistive on a physical level, right? It could be assistive in helping to make things and to do things that the human is not able to do for whatever reason. So.
Thank you.
Can I feedback on that? Because we are thinking about robots the whole time. We're doing these things and we're playing with them and we're selling them to other people and we're trying to get grants and stuff. But really what we're thinking about is sort of how we live through technology and how technology, AI, ChatGPT, how things that are linked with digital data systems that become part of our physical world, how they actually can support us. And so when you talk about sort of interacting with humans, that's already existing in Japan. The care robots, little seals that are stroked in hospitals, etc. That's already out there. I think, and there's a really interesting conversation according to missing name. What robots are. If we mold them after our own image, or if they're supposed to be something else, like a pet, yeah? So they provide us with something that is not completely our mirror, but something that goes beyond that dimension. And so I think that, and then if you open up that, yeah, what is the functionality that we're actually seeking, yeah? So I think we have used robots for super precision, super control, working in dangerous environments now, working as something that is highly interactive, so second generation. I think if we forecast to the future, there's also the possibility to, we are very finite. Yeah, so you have 60 years, you have 80 years, and then that's it. And we're also not very clever as a species, right? Because we're not learning from our mistakes. Yeah? We don't connect to big data sets. We are getting better at that, but we don't have that yet. Yeah, which is why some of the bits and pieces that appear, these little seeds that we have out there. So the robot as the gardener, that's really not so interesting because it's impromptu. But it would feed geographical data, it would forecast temperatures. So it could contain this whole huge digital archive and translate it into physical embodiment over generations, potentially also restricting humans, yeah, in this high forward, more, expansion of our very finite physical resources. So I think thinking on a larger scale with robots, space-wise, time dimension-wise, would be very attractive as well.
I also really like the word that you used, interlocutor, and I feel like it doesn't have to be so sneaky anymore. Like the robot doesn't have to be invisible, it doesn't have to sit in a wallet, it doesn't have to be in your purse or in your home or your bag. I think, the Iwa is here and did a performance with us. It doesn't need to be disguised. I think there is more of an acceptance of technology as an augmentary tool, like you're saying, as company. And this has been explored in sci-fi film for ages. For example, She is a really interesting film along this line, where the voice of like an admin assistant like Siri or Alexa, they're female, and he falls in love with her. Sorry to ruin it. But, like the interlocutor part doesn't need to be sneaky anymore. I think we've come far enough that we can kind of accept that they're here and welcome them and experiment and play.
I agree, and could I add to that?
Yeah.
I also think we increasingly have relationships with our phones. I mean, in the past it was a tool to call, but now if somebody calls and we're using our phone, it's kind of an interruption, isn't it, in some level?
Because we're doing something else, we're connecting or looking visually or listening.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Immersing.
So it's increasingly becoming present as something we interact with, as an object in our lives, as an artifact.
Well, it's an extension of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other robots?
I have so I'm triggered by your answer about how can we extend our physical reality with robots. I mean, I think I would just want a robot who just do the service job for me, like clean the house, paint the walls, or do shopping, all the things that I don't want to do. And I particularly wouldn't want to interact with a robot as a pet, or I don't know, maybe I like humans, maybe. But isn't it scary that, imagine that you have a robot that can extend your physicality over time? Then do you think that it will change the way that you think about your life? I don't know, I wouldn't want to live forever, for example. Why, then you have to make your plans for forever, I think. What do you think about that? Imagine that, all the things that you're doing right now, it needs to be extended like for generations, and it's scary, I think.
No. I wasn't referring to making us sort of living forever. I think that's not the point. I think it's good that we have 80 years because then you can make it count, right?
Yes.
And then you can restart if you believe in that. I think it's more like connecting to systems that can keep the memory and on a very detailed level, in the similar way that books do, right? I mean, we learn so much from books. I mean, books is just genius, yeah? Because you actually don't have to meet a person in order to learn from them, yeah? But books are descriptive. And if you can learn with a robot, so going back to the idea of sharing skill sets, like a demonstrator robot that allows you to physically understand, yeah? To upgrade and learn your skills. I think that's an absolutely fantastic resource that we would have at our hands. Yeah? So we're all learning from videos much more than we have ever learned before, yeah? Because they're demonstration tutorials, etc. Yeah? If you could have a robot hold your hand and guide you through the steps, yeah? So that physical knowledge goes into your muscle memory, yeah? That's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
I think what you're talking about is adaptation rather than replacement, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it will also be like we don't know, right? Because you didn't know what you could do with your phone. Yeah. So that's a whole different level of how we sell, how we meet, how we learn, how we manage our time and space. Yeah. So it's sort of like before the phone and then after the phone, right? It will be before the robot and then after the robot if we continue to go this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I work a lot with phones and robots, by the way. But at the same time, I question my work as well. Right now, I mean, we use phones as a tool. I mean, we think that we use phones as tool.
Yeah.
But when I look at our lives, sometimes we also became the robot of our phones, right? We're so stuck with them. We do a lot.
We look
For
after
them,
them.
actually,
We
yes.
look after them, actually. We charge them. We make sure they're protected. You know, all of these things. We upgrade them so they have the best software.
Yeah, we
all
have
these things, you know.
so many apps, and you become like, you create a virtual yourself to make, I don't know.
I've been thinking about what you're talking about, and I think of the phone as an extension of a laptop or a computer in the way that a car is an extension of, you know, maybe a carriage, or an airplane is an extension of a train. And I think this is the nature of technology, and this is the nature of people. It's like we'll keep seeking until we get something that works for us. So we're just working towards something that seems to work for now.
Well, I like Dagmar's delineation of before robots and after robot. And speaking of that, that reminds us that our time is finite, but this is not actually the end of the robot at TU Delft. There will be a presentation for library colleagues tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon at lunch, there will be a lunch lecture where we get into a little bit more of the technical details behind some of the creative research in the exhibition, including a planting demo with the robot, the Iwa, who will be spending the night in the library. So there's that. And
Before we close, can I just thank a few people?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I was going to plug something else, but go ahead and
No,
thank
no,
somebody.
you plug first.
Thank everyone, and I'll remember what I'm going to plug at the end.
All right. Well, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for the leader of the labs that we're all involved in, the National Facility for Human-Robot Interaction. So huge thanks to Professor Mari Velanaki at UNSW Art and Design, and to Professor Ed Shear, my head of school, for letting me come. Thank you very much. Teaching starts this week, and I'm still here, so that's pretty great. And I really do want to acknowledge our two SHErobots who, well, more than two. There's been like a whole group of guys that have helped us with coming here, with infrastructure, with finding money. And that's Vincent Cilucci, Joaquin, Marcel, and Hans of the production team. And so even though we are called SHErobots and we're looking at female-led practice, I think that we're also looking at human dynamic. And we can't do it alone. We have to do it with each other. So thanks.
Perfect. And perfect. Can you mic me? Okay. Oh, am I on? I don't need. Can't even hear. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to plug, so please join us tomorrow at lunch for the library for the planting demo and more, but also that will be the first of what we're calling a series of SHErobot cafes, and it will continue into 6 other lunch lectures through May, highlighting TU Delft female researchers that are at the forefront of robotics. And so this concept of extending, much more than the exhibition, that is a network, and that we're extending it, and there's researchers right here at the TU Delft that are doing amazing things with robotics too, and we wanted to make that bridge. So please look at the schedule for that, because there's an exciting program that will continue. So thank you very much, and thanks to the library, all the colleagues and New Media Center for helping us out.
Yeah.
And we will adjourn to the exhibition, and there will be some beverages and snacks. So please join us.
Excellent.
Snacks. Good question.